My favorite move is probably an arm throw or an arm spin. I use it a lot, probably more than I should. They come under my left arm. I can go over in what's called an overhook, kind of like twist myself and wrap their arm like around my neck almost, and use that momentum, and they kind of go over my shoulder. My dilemma when I started looking for colleges is I had two tracks I could go on. I could either go to a wrestling school, I could go to a school for academics. And none of them particularly met up so that I could have both. The support system is insane, and it's the reason that I decided to try this whole come to Columbia and start a women's wrestling team.
Clear it. Okay, we're back facing each other, right? So like I just wait for people to collar tie me, and I do this with both sides. So as soon as somebody collar ties me.
So this is a clinic being run by Olympian and my coach, Elena Piershkova. This is like a clinic for more experienced wrestlers, like girls in the area, probably mostly high schoolers are gonna be here.
You step, hook. In real life, it happens really fast. Okay? Keeping the shoulder tight right here. I can stand up. There's nothing she can do.
So at the moment, we're starting out with a club team. That's kind of where you have to start out anywhere. We have all the signatures we need to start a club team. I just have to fill out the paperwork and name 3 officers. From there, we can compete with schools in the northeastern US and southeastern Canada, and some of the WCWA schools on the East Coast. What we're really looking forward to is there's girls trying to start a team at Stevens, there's girls trying to start a team at Princeton, there's girls trying to start a team at Hunter College here in the city. And what we'd really like to do is kind of start our own conference, like within the WCWA, or even before we get teams in the WCWA, like be able to compete against teams right here in the New York area.
Then they usually join a national governing board or a national governing association, and those governing associations will have different classifications and qualifications for who can compete. And once you're in that governing association, they may or may not help schedule matches. They may or may not have standings. They're all a bit different depending on which sport you're referencing. But really that's the path to be able to compete against other institutions. Is
Kira Tarana Barry, Columbia College class of '87. Chair emerita of the Columbia College Alumni Association and former team leader for USA Wrestling Women's Freestyle Team for the Rio Olympics, as well as president of the board of Beat the Streets. I guess I have a handful there. The Women's College Wrestling Association is the umbrella league for women's wrestling. As I mentioned before, there are about 25 teams. It keeps growing every year.
Columbia doesn't have a women's wrestling team because most places don't have a women's wrestling team. There is no Division I school yet that has a women's wrestling team.
Waiting to hear back from that group, the NCAA, and what it requires is a certain number of schools, Division I schools, committing to introduce the sport and bring it on as varsity sport within 10 years.
Men's and women's squash clubs, they were elevated from club sports to a varsity program. So there is the possibility of a club sport to be elevated to a varsity program.
wrestling, to my understanding, is one of the up-and-coming sports for women in the country. It's really exciting that Columbia has the oldest, the first, I believe, intercollegiate varsity wrestling program on the men's side, and I think it'd be exciting to be able to support that sport for the women's side as well.
No space. Do it again.
I feel like it is hard for everybody. It was easier for me because I had a support system around me that wasn't trying to actively kick me out. I've heard a lot of horror stories from other girls where
I cried a lot during wrestling, when I was much younger.
I think mainly because I was so angry a lot of the time. Amongst the high schools we would wrestle at in tournaments were a lot of like Catholic schools and religious schools that would constantly be forfeiting matches against girls, and that really sucked a lot. So none of my teammates would really, stand up for me, and being the only girl, it really made me feel awful. Knowing that people that was supposed to be my teammates and like my family, didn't have my back. Their coach would be like, yeah, like that's points for our team, but I'm like, no, that's bullshit. Like I want to wrestle.
I feel like girls thinking that wrestling isn't for girls comes from an idea that like it's gonna hurt. That's kind of something that you have to get past.
I mean, with any aspect in life, like hard work, like you are only like, I don't even know how to phrase it. I was gonna say something really inspirational. Like you're only as good as the work you put into it. Like that's just a fact. And yeah, there are distractions. Like yeah, things get in the way, and there won't always be people to motivate you. But I think it's even stronger when you're able to pull it out of yourself and just kind of find that motivation within.
I feel like the men's wrestling scandal last year kind of shocked me as much as it shocked anybody.
I think the trials that the Columbia men's wrestling team went through last year are not a deterrent to women wrestlers and potential women wrestlers looking at Columbia and considering come here. With the one of the first medalists and competitors for the U.S. team, and one of the coaches came over and said, "You can't compete with the long hair," and actually took a pair of scissors on the side of the mat and chopped off her hair, thinking that would deter her. These women who are out there and they're wrestling, they are not deterred by anything. They're out there, they love the sport, they'll go after it hard, and I think that's that's exactly the kind of person you want at Columbia. That's who we are as Columbians.
Wrestling, the biggest thing that wrestling gave me was it gave me just a network and group of people. Some people that like I would consider family just as much as any of my family. And people that have helped me go to school in New York City, go to an Ivy League school, help me counsel through all my problems. And I'm blessed that I can do the same thing for other people.